This cue card type appears in IELTS more than any other. Describe a time when. A time you made a decision. A time you overcame a challenge. A time you learned something new. A time you changed your mind. These cards keep coming up because they're testing your ability to narrate an experience. And here's the good news. Master one structure and you can handle them all. In this episode, I'm giving you that exact structure.
And this is genuinely a game changer. I'm Felicity, that's Anthony, and welcome to episode 18 of IELTS Speaking Podcast. If describe a time when cards make you panic, you're about to feel a lot more confident.
Look, these experience cards intimidate students because they feel so open-ended. Describe a difficult decision you made. Where do you even start? How do you fill 2 minutes without rambling? What if you can't think of a good example?
All valid concerns.
And the advice you're hearing today comes from over 10 years of real examiner experience. I've listened to thousands of Part 2 answers, and the candidates who score highest aren't the ones with the most dramatic stories. They're the ones with the clearest structure.
So what are we covering?
3 things that will transform any describe a time answer. First, the STAR structure. Situation, task, action, result. It works for literally any experience card. Second, decision vocabulary, specific phrases that show range and sophistication. And third, the reflection close, how to end every experience answer on a band 8 note. Let's get into it. All right, before I teach you the structure, let me show you what happens without it. Question. Describe a difficult decision you had to make. Here's a typical band 5 answer. I made a decision to change my job. It was difficult because I liked my old job, but the new job had more money. I thought about it for a long time. Then I decided to take the new job. Now I am happy with my decision. What's wrong with that?
It's vague and kind of flat.
Exactly. There's no detail, no journey, no real language to assess. The examiner's thinking, okay, but what was the situation? How did you decide? What did you actually learn? The answer just floats on the surface, and that's where the STAR structure comes in. STAR stands for situation, task, action, result. It's originally from job interviews, but it works perfectly for IELTS Part 2. Let me break it down. S, situation. Set the scene. When was this? What was happening in your life? Give context. P, task. What was the challenge or decision you faced? What made it difficult? A, action. What did you actually do? Walk us through your thinking process or steps. R, result. What happened? And crucially, what did you learn or take away from it? This structure guarantees you'll fill 2 minutes with organized, detailed content.
And it works for any describe a time card?
Any of them. A time you helped someone, same structure. A time you overcame a challenge, same structure. A time you learned something new, same structure. The STAR framework adapts to everything.
That's powerful. Check the description box below, by the way. We've put the STAR breakdown there so you can reference it when you practice.
Let me demonstrate with a full answer. I'll do the difficult decision topic. The decision I'd like to talk about is actually when I chose to leave a stable job to go back to university. This was about 4 years ago, and it's probably the hardest decision I've made in my adult life. At the time, I was working as an accountant at a mid-sized firm. The pay was decent, the people were nice, and I was, comfortable. But I've been feeling for a while that accounting wasn't really what I wanted to do long term. I was interested in marketing and had been taking online courses in my spare time. So I was faced with this choice. Stay in a secure job that paid well but didn't excite me, or take a risk and go back to study something I was actually passionate about. After weighing up my options for probably 3 or 4 months, what ultimately swayed me was a conversation with my older sister. She said something like, "You're 28, not 58. If you're going to make a change, now's the time." And that really stuck with me. So I handed in my notice, enrolled in a marketing degree, and moved back to a smaller apartment to make it work financially. In retrospect, it was absolutely the right call. I graduated last year and I'm now working in a role that genuinely excites me. But more than that, what I learned from the experience is that sometimes security isn't worth sacrificing your sense of purpose. If I had to do it again, I'd make the same choice, probably even sooner. That's the result: outcome plus reflection.
That was really clear. I could follow every stage.
And notice it's not a dramatic story. Lots of people change careers, but the structure made it engaging and easy to follow. Let's practice one of those phrases. Say it with me. I was faced with. Go on, I was faced with. Good. That's a great way to introduce any dilemma.
So that's the structure, but you mentioned specific vocabulary too.
Right. Technique 2: decision vocabulary. When you're talking about making a choice, there are certain phrases that instantly signal sophistication. Let me give you the essential one. For introducing the dilemma, I was faced with. I found myself having to choose between. The options in front of me were, for describing your thinking process, after weighing up my options, I spent a lot of time considering. What ultimately swayed me was, the deciding factor was. For talking about the outcome, in retrospect, looking back now, in hindsight, I realize if I had to do it again.
These are so much better than I thought about it and then decided.
Exactly. I thought about it is band 5. After weighing up my options, what ultimately swayed me was is band 7 or 8. Same meaning, different score. Quick reminder, if this is helping you, hit subscribe. We drop new episodes every week. And check the description box. All these phrases are listed there so you can copy them directly into your notes. We're always adding extra resources down there too. Let me give you one more mini example using the vocabulary. Topic: describe a time you changed your mind about something. I found myself reconsidering my views on social media actually. For years, I'd been quite dismissive of it, thought it was a waste of time. But after weighing up the evidence, I realized it can be a powerful tool for connection if used mindfully. What ultimately swayed me was seeing how my younger cousin used it to build a small business. In retrospect, I was being too quick to judge something I didn't fully understand.
Short but effective, and you hit the decision vocabulary naturally.
That's the goal. Make these phrases part of your active vocabulary so they come out without thinking. All right, technique 3: the reflection close. This is what separates band 7 from band 8 in part 2. Most students end their answer with a result. And now I'm happy. Or it worked out well. That's fine, but it's not memorable. What band 8 candidates do is add reflection. What they learned, how they grew, what they do differently. This shows sophisticated thinking and adds a natural conclusion.
So instead of just, it worked out well,
You say something like, what I took away from this experience was, it taught me that if I had to do it again, I would. Looking back, I realized that. These phrases signal that you're not just reporting what happened, you're making meaning from it. And that's exactly what examiners want to hear.
can you give a quick example of a weak close versus a strong close?
Sure. Same decision story. Week close. So I changed jobs and now I'm happy. It was a good decision. Strong close. In retrospect, it was absolutely the right call. But more than that, what I learned from the experience is that sometimes security isn't worth sacrificing your sense of purpose. I think I grew a lot through that process. I trust my instincts more now than I did before. See the difference?
Night and day.
This strong close has reflection, personal growth, a lesson learned. That's band 8 material. Let's practice. What I took away from this experience was, say it. What I took away from this experience was perfect. And every part to answer with some version of that.
Okay, let's do a rapid role play. I'll give you the cue card, you give a full star answer.
Go for it.
Felicity, examiner voice. Describe a time when you helped someone. You should say who you helped, how you helped them, why they needed help, and explain how you felt about helping them.
The time that comes to mind is when I helped my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, navigate some bureaucratic paperwork last year. She's in her 70s, originally from China, and her English is very limited. So the situation was that she'd received this official letter about her pension, and she was completely overwhelmed by it. The language was very formal, lots of legal jargon, and she had no idea what she needed to do or what deadline she was facing. So I found myself in the position of translator and guide, essentially. I sat down with her, went through the letter line by line, explained what it meant, and then helped her fill out the response form. It took maybe 2 hours in total, which honestly wasn't a big sacrifice for me, but made an enormous difference to her. What ultimately came of it was not just the paperwork getting sorted, but Mrs. Chen and I became much closer as neighbors. She now brings me homemade dumplings regularly, which is a nice bonus. But in retrospect, what I took away from the experience was how small acts of help can have an outsized impact. For me, it was a couple of hours. For her, it was weeks of anxiety lifted. It reminded me not to underestimate the value of just showing up for people.
That was excellent. Star structure, decision vocabulary were relevant, and a beautiful reflection close.
And the story itself is simple: help the neighbor with paperwork. Nothing dramatic, but the structure made it compelling.
All right, let's wrap up with 3 quick wins. Quick win number 1. Use the star structure for any describe a time card. Situation, set the scene; task, the challenge or decision; action, what you did; result, what happened and what you learned. This guarantees 2 minutes of organized content. Quick win number 2. Use decision vocabulary to show range. Phrases like, I was faced with, after weighing up my options, what ultimately swayed me, and, in retrospect, instantly signal band 7 and above. Quick win number 3. Always end with reflection. Don't just say it worked out well. Say what you learned, how you grew, what you do differently. Phrases like, what I took away from this was, and if I had to do it again, close your answer on a band 8 note.
And here are the key phrases to practice. I was faced with, after weighing up my options. What ultimately swayed me was, in retrospect, if I had to do it again, what I took away from this experience was. All of these are in the description box below. Grab them there along with timestamps and any extra resources we add. And that's episode 18, the one structure that works for any describe a time card. If this helped, smash that subscribe button. New episodes every week.
What's coming next?
Next episode continues the decision theme, but we're moving to part 3. Questions like, do young people make decisions differently from older people? And why do some people find it hard to make decisions? These are comparison and abstract questions, and I'm going to give you the exact framework for handling them without rambling.
Part 3, comparison questions. That's a tricky one.
It is, but not if you have the right structure. It's called decision making, abstract answers that impress. Don't miss it. Until then, practice that star structure. Load up on decision vocabulary and always end with reflection. Don't forget to check the description for all the key phrases and bonus resources. See you next time.
Bye, everyone.